So, welcome to another episode of the podcast, Profits Unleashed podcast, the show where we empower coaches, experts, consultants to use podcasting as a really powerful tool to drive sales and grow your business. I'm your host, Karen Roberts, and after the adverts, I will be back with sharing my tips on how to turn the listeners into clients. But before I do that, I'm here with Anmol Singh. Really excited to have him on the show. He is a trader, he is an investor, he is an author of Prepping for Success. He knows all about riding the emotional roller coaster of the stock market. Now, there's a big difference, right, between profit and loss. And it often comes down to understanding how to make logical, fast decisions based off, well, it's pretty constantly changing data, right? So Anmol and his team at Live Traders show people how, not only how to execute trades, but review all the different scenarios and most importantly, keep their emotions in check, especially when the stakes are high. So Anmol has been doing this a long while. He's been trading since his college dorm days when he saved enough money to legally start multiple franchises and actually move to America. So he's a very well established as a very successful trader. And he did all of this by the time he was just 22 years old. So you also may recognize him from his many features in some pretty big major outlets, including Business Insider, Forbes, and International Business Times. So, Anmol, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to chatting with you.
So, would you like to share, first of all, what was the inspiration behind you helping people trade successfully? Because it's a little bit of a minefield, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was when I started, learning how to trade, there wasn't a whole lot of resources, 15, 20 years ago. And one of the things I realized was what was available online was everybody just showing them the positive side about trading, how great the business can be, how much money you could make. And nobody really shared the real, the pitfalls, right? The cons, or what you have to handle, the emotional side, right? All the other things that nobody talks about. So I had a pretty big learning curve. I lost money my whole first year when I started to trade. And then, but I learned a lot from those losses. I found a mentor. He taught me a lot about trading. So what I try to do is basically everything that helped me in my trading get to where I am today, to basically give that as a path to all the people who are starting now. So they don't get bogged down with the articles they're reading online or what's on Reddit, what's the next hot stock, just getting away from that gambler's mentality and to be able to do this consistently as a living. So showing them, the real life trading, right? Okay, wins and losses. I think that's where the biggest learning lessons are. Because you can learn a lot about me from my winning trades, but I think there's a lot more what happens, how I handle myself when I lose. I think that's really important too. And I think not many people online talk about that. So I think that's kind of what I try to show them. So it's almost like, they're sitting next to me and watching me trade. And I think that is the best way to learn, is by sitting next to somebody, watching them do it. And that way you can get to learn their habits and the way they act and how they handle the markets.
Excellent. And I mean, it is for anybody sort of coming into it. It's a bit scary because you could be putting your life savings on the line. So you talk about unlock your potential. There's so many positives of this when you get it correctly. So you must have some kind of process that well, I suppose you're almost guaranteeing that people are going to be successful in the long run. It doesn't mean they're going to win every single trade, because that's ridiculous. Nobody's going to do that, I would presume. But you're helping them overall grow a business through trading. So you must have some kind of process that actually helps people do that. So how do you do it? How do you help them?
Yeah, so I have this crystal ball. No, I'm just kidding. But the way we do it is, there's strategies, just like anything else in life. There's different strategies on how they work, but it's all really based on statistics. So as you said, right, nobody wins every single trade. There's not a single person on earth who's won every single trade they take. It's just impossible. Heck, a casino runs multi-billion dollar casinos. They don't win every single time, right? So just like trading, what you have to do is you have to learn how to be the casino. How can you get the odds just a little bit in your favor so that over time you're going to make money? So an example of that would be, let's say if you take 10 trades and you have a 50-50% win rate, which is very reasonable to expect. You can throw a dart on something, whether the stock's going to go up or down, you have a 50-50% chance. But now let's assume you win five, you lose five, but let's assume we just tweak something. Let's say the winner is twice the size of the average loser. Now, by that ratio, you could win 40% of your trades. So you could lose 6 out of 10 and still end up being
Mm.
profitable. So that's kind of what we try to do is we tweak the odds a little bit in our favor so that over time we're going to make money. We're not going to make money every single trade, but at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, it's going to be profitable. I think that's what we try to do is just to get the odds in your favor by a little bit. Just the simple thing I shared. If you just make sure your winners are twice the size of your average loser, you only need to be right 40% of the time. In fact, 34% of the time, if you're right, you're going to be, break even. So if you win just a little bit more, you're going to naturally come out ahead if you maintain that ratio. So that's all we're really trying to do is just to get the odds in our favor.
And how much time do people need to spend doing this? Is this day trading, or is this are you just checking on things once a week, once a month? How is it you work?
Yeah, so the great thing about the markets is no matter what your time frame is, you can do it. If you're somebody who wants to do this every single day, like I do, in and out, day trading, then great, you could do that, right? We just look at the same exact patterns, but maybe on a 5 minute chart or a 15-minute chart where each move is showing what happened every 5, 10 minutes. Now, if you're somebody who's like, I don't want to sit in front of my computer all day and do this thing, but I want to be involved in the market so I can grow my money over time. Maybe I have another job, maybe I have another business. So then what they do is swing trading. Swing trading is where you're not getting in and out every single day. You might buy something today, you might hold it for about a week. You might buy it today, maybe you get out 3 days later, right? But anything more than a day is considered swing trading. Now we're looking at the exact same patterns. Just instead of looking at on a smaller time frame on a 5 or 10 minute chart, we might be looking at it on a daily chart or weekly chart where each bar is one day. So I think that's the beauty about the technical analysis and trading is that you can find whatever time frame is suitable for you. I mean, professional traders like me, we would do all styles because we're looking for opportunities wherever they might exist. So I might see something for just to trade today where I see, oh, there's an opportunity here for a quick trade. I might do that. But then I might see, oh, I like this cryptocurrency. I think in the next 5 years is going to be something. I can do that investment too. Or if I see an opportunity, hey, I think Bitcoin or Tesla, all these stocks are going to go up if, let's say Trump wins the election, and then there's a technical pattern supporting that, then I could buy that and I might be in it for about a month, right? And then a month later, you saw what happened the after election. Crypto went up, Tesla stock went up, everything went up. So those are example of like swing trades. So I do all styles, right? Because I do this for a living. But somebody else who just wants to be involved on the side can, pick one style or the other.
Fantastic. And so, this is an opportunity for anybody, right? Doesn't matter what they do for a living. This is a side, it can be a side hustle. As you've explained, you can do it full time. But why do you think no, do more people not dip into these opportunities? What's sort of stopping people?
I think the number one thing is obviously they're just not aware. There's not enough knowledge about all of this, right? I don't think they talk about trading, investing in college or in school, right? Majority of places don't. So it's not something they grew up with. In fact, when I was in school or just starting to learn, even in college days, I never thought I would be in finance or anything to do with trading. I was horrible at math. A very average student. Last thing I thought would be something to do with numbers, but here I am because it's like the awareness is not there. Nobody teaches you all of this stuff. So I think that is the number one hurdle. People think it's way out of their reach. You need to be the finance person, but you don't. It's pattern recognition. It's not really about finance. In fact, most of the stuff has spreadsheets and calculators now. You don't even need to do anything manually yourself. So I think that's number one thing. Number two thing is it just has a bad connotation, right? We had the dot-com bubble, we had the financial crisis. So everybody's parents have given their kids their version of what happened into the stock market, which is stay away from it. It's gambling. You can lose all your money. But the stock market has gone up almost every single year. It's every single time the market is higher than where it was 10 years ago, every single time. We had financial crisis since then. We were up like thousands of percentage points. So we've come back a long way, but I think that leaves the bad market in people's mind. So I think those connotations of it's gambling, it's speculating, you're going to lose all your money, and not having enough knowledge is kind of the biggest reasons why people never enter the market.
And what other I mean, there's just so many things. I mean, what else do you think sort of is stopping people from, I mean, these days there's not many options for people to have, a guaranteed increase. People are, you know, they're told to put money away for their pension. We know I doubt there's going to be any money left in the pot by the time I get to retire anyway. So, you've got to do something. So, what else do you think is sort of just holding people back from entering into this kind of thing?
I think it's their own mindset, right? It's their own, not only just the lack of understanding we covered, but also when they do get into it, to think about it like, "Oh, I'm going to get rich quick. I'm going to find this next big stock that is at a penny. It's going to go to $1,000, right?" And rarely does that happen, right? The stock is at a penny for a reason. So that's something you need to know. So I think there's a lot of like the emotional element to that, right? The lack of understanding, maybe a lack of capital. Maybe they don't have money saved up because a lot of people who are at a job are living paycheck to paycheck, so they don't have the disposable funds to get into this. So I think, but one of the things is like, as long as you have an open mind and you have a willingness to learn, all of this can be learned. Even if you have zero money right now, there's simulators accounts, there's demo accounts. You can start practicing almost like a video game where everything is real. The market movements are real, just the money's not real, right? But at least you can start practicing and you can build that skill set. So when you do have the money, then you're able to take responsible action with it. In fact, I always tell people if you're brand new, you should not even be putting in real money. You should prove yourself on the demo simulator account, because if you can make money on a simulator account, how are you going to make money in a real account? It won't work. So I think that's some of the things people need to look at is like you absolutely can do it, but you just got to get yourself out of the way and realize that this is a big opportunity. If it wasn't, the whole world would not be doing it. It's trillions of dollars in the market
Mm.
is there for a reason. And one of the things also is that, let's say if I'm trying to learn a new language, or there's two people in front of me talking in Russian and I don't speak Russian. So I will think, what are they talking about? I don't understand anything. It doesn't make any sense. But now when I start to learn it, I start to see, that's what they're talking about. And that's what trading really
Mm.
is. From the outside, it seems very daunting, but it's just a new language. Once you learn a little bit about it, then you start seeing why stocks move the way they do. So all of this is learnable. Information is all available freely these days online that people can pick up and learn.
But I mean, it is an emotional thing. So, like, you do help people because you know that quite often, you've got to have nerves of steel. I know my own very small, it didn't last long, experience of trying to day trade Forex. I found that, yes, I was great when it was a demo account. I had my particular strategies that I was following, and it was working, and I was put my stop loss in, and yes, I didn't win every trade, but I was winning overall. And then, oh my goodness, the moment it was my own money, I'd be sat there like biting my nails, thinking, no, 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 because I haven't put a stop loss in, and now it's gone down even more. No, 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 no,
Mm.
it's going to turn, it's going to turn. And I just turned into a complete gambler, and all my rules that I'd stuck with on a demo account had gone out the window. So, how do you help people deal with the emotional side of this?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. And again, everybody goes through that, so don't feel bad about your experience. Almost everybody at some point has gone through that. But that's because when you are a baby, right, or your child, your parents are telling you what to do, and then you go to a school, then your teachers are telling you what to do. Then you go to college, your professor is telling you what to do, and then you go get a job. Your boss, your supervisor, or manager is going to tell you what to do. And if you don't do it, there's going to be consequences for that. You could be fired. You could lose your job. Well, in trading or whether entrepreneurship, running your business, nobody is going to tell you what to do. You have to coach and train yourself on doing the right thing when nobody's watching, because nobody will be watching you, right? It's just you and the computer. It's just numbers on the screen. So you have to like get that self discipline enough to act on your rules, to follow your plan, right? I think that's the number one reason most people fail is they're not used to that level of accountability because they grew up always somebody's telling them what to do. And there's also consequences, right? As I said, you don't do what your boss tells you what to do, you could be fired. Well, in trading, your trading plan is your boss. But if you don't listen to it, problem is there's no
Mm.
consequences. Consequences, you lose your money, but there's no real consequence. Like you could just come back another day and trade again. And I think those are the reasons why people are, struggling with this business. And the way to do that is just to be a person of integrity. Do what you said you're going to do, and then do it when you said you're going to do it very religiously. Follow the rules.
Mm,
It's just as simple as that. And your trading and your investing success, or even business entrepreneurship success, is directly correlated to you being able to do what you said you're going to do and doing it when you said you're going to do it. I think that's the
mm,
biggest difference maker. And that is something that, you just have to get yourself to do it. There's no special skill set on that. You have to create a rule system. Now, the way it can be easier is the way you can have more trust in your rules and to be able to follow that is if you have statistics showing how that would have done over the last 100 years. Because then okay, if I just do the strategy over the last 100 years, here are the hard numbers of this result. Okay, if I take 1,000 trades, I'm going to lose 600 of them. I'm going to win 400 of them. But the 400 winners are twice the size of my losers. Okay, overall, this is profitable. So that gives us the confidence to just keep executing on it because you know what the result's going to be after a 10 or 100 trades, a bigger sample size. I think a lot of people look at a very small sample size and they get dismayed. Few losers, they get
mm.
fearful. Oh my God, what happened? Right? Or few winners, they get really confident. But if you have a big enough sample size, you're going to be emotionally detached because at the end of 1,000 of these trades, this is what the result's going to be. I don't need to get too excited. I don't need to feel too down. I know what the results are going to be. But most people never do the hard work of looking back at a strategy and seeing how it would have done over time.
Mm. And I think something you said there is actually more powerful. It being able to be detached from the outcome. And I think that it's not just about trading. I think even in any business owner,
Mm.
somehow if you can find the way to be emotionally detached from the outcome and just get up and do the work that you need to do to grow your business, and that's related to trading as much as just anybody having a business. And isn't it interesting that people or many people can struggle with that one thing? But words of wisdom there, and I completely agree with it. You've got to be detached from the outcome.
Yeah,
So,
it's a great skill set to have in trading, but it
oh,
doesn't serve, as my ex-girlfriend said in their last relationship, you're like, "You're so unemotional, like, you never react." I'm like, "Yeah, I've trained myself to be, like, completely detached." You know? So
yeah,
certain
good
skill
in
sets.
some, yeah,
Yeah.
certain skills, certain things it's good for, maybe not so much in others. So,
Yes.
what would you say if anybody's listening and thinking, they'd love to be able to learn this kind of thing, and even if they were going to do it on the side, what would be the sort of minimum investment that they would need to sort of get something out of it? Where do they start?
So in terms of learning, they can start with nothing, right? If you just go onto our YouTube channel, Live Traders, there's hundreds of hours of lectures on there. You don't even need to take my course because if you just watch all the videos, you probably got it all, right? So like, there's a lot of stuff in there. So learning, you can start right now. It costs zero money, right? Go on YouTube, watch the videos, get a demo account, practice on it. So you can start learning and getting involved right now. Now, when it comes to actually investing or trading, the best part, it's all a percentage game, right? So if you know, okay, this is the strategy, it produces X percentage, well, then you do the math on what you're going to make on based on how much you have, right? If the strategy makes, let's say, 70% over the end of the year, short-term strategy, well, then okay, I have $10,000. Then do the math. This is what you're going to make. I have $1 million. This is what you're going to make. So the best part about trading is that it's all a percentage game. It's just you're going to make more or less based on how much you're going to put in. So start with whatever you're comfortable with. You never want to just kind of put all your money in there. Start with a small amount of money, prove yourself first. Earn the right to put more money in. Right? That's what I tell people. Don't just put money in because you have it saved. Earn it, right? Start with, let's say, $2,000. Grow it to 5,000. Okay, grow it to 10. Grow it to 15. Okay, maybe you put 5 more in, right? Like, so you want to earn the right to put more money in rather than just taking your savings and putting it into something you haven't tested yet.
Fantastic. So, the listeners are like, quite like the idea of finding out more. What should the listeners do next?
I think that the first thing you need to do is, go to my website, livetraders.com, right? Make a free account, right? You're going to get a couple videos in there. They're like 2-hour training that we used to charge like $200-300 for. It's just the basics of what markets really is, how they actually work, how trading really works, how it's a game of statistical probability. So like teaching them the right frame of minds, I think that's a great place to start because that will tell you if this is something you're even interested in. Maybe you watch those 2-3 hours, you're like, okay, this is not my game, and that great, you saved yourself all this trouble rather than spending money and trying to learn all of this stuff. So first watch that. That would be step number one. Step number two is, maybe come into one of our communities calls or come into the live chat room, which I run every single day. Then you watch me do it every single day and see if this is something you even want to get into, right? Because maybe you watch me, you're like, okay, I don't want to get into that. That's okay, right? You need to figure out if this is for you. You need to be actually curious about this business if you're really going to make it. Because at any business you do, at some point, things are going to get tough, right? As simple as that. Now, if you're not passionate about that business, guess what's going to happen? You're going to quit, right? But if you're really curious, you're passionate about it, even when things get tough, you're going to find a way to make it work. You're like, oh, if I did it this way, what if I did that? And they would have changed the results like this. Now that curiosity will keep you going. So I think that's somewhere to start. You can grab a copy of my book as well. I'd love to give your listeners a free copy. They can go to go.anmol.net, grab a free copy of the book, just cover shipping, and that will give you the frame mindset pieces, the frame of mind you need to have, not only just for trading, but no matter what you do in any endeavor you take on. What are the principal ways of thinking? So if you like the way we think or you agree with the philosophies, then great, we could talk more about working together. But unless you agree with the philosophies, then there's no point kind of proceeding the conversations.
Brilliant. Thank you. And all Anmol's details will be in the show notes. So if you're driving, when you get home, you can go back and check everything out in the show notes. So look, finally, Anmol, here at Podcast Profits Limited, we are passionate about making podcasting accessible to all coaches, experts, consultants. So if you had your own podcast, what would you call it?
So I did have one in the past. It was actually named after my book. It was called Prepping for Success Podcast. So that's what I called it, because success is a mindset more than anything else. And success could translate into all different areas of your life, whether health, wealth, love, happiness, finances. So yeah, that's what I called it, Prepping for Success.
Perfect. Fantastic. Look, Anmol, thank you so much for your time today, sharing some fantastic insights. And to the listeners, well, after the ads, I will be back and I'll be sharing my 3 top tips on how to turn listeners into clients for your podcast. So bye for now. So welcome back. Right, let's talk about one of the biggest opportunities that you have as a podcaster, and that is turning your listeners into actual clients. Because your podcast is not just a place to share your ideas, it's a gateway to building real relationships and, yes, actually growing your business. But how do you go from someone listening to your voice to someone actually paying for your services? So let's break it down into 3 super practical steps. So, number 1, step 1, you've got to create a very clear call to action. So, let's start off with, you just need to make it really super easy, like ridiculously easy. So, make it so that it's super easy for your listeners to take the next step with you. Just think about it. What do you want them to do after they've finished your episode? It could be downloading a free guide, maybe it's booking a call, or just ask them to follow you on Instagram. The problem with that is you'll never know if they actually did that. But whatever it is, be specific and make it sound exciting. For example, you could say something like, if today's episode resonated with you, head over to whatever your website is.com/free and grab my free guide on whatever the topic is, right? Tell them it's absolutely packed with tips to help you solve whatever the pain point is, right? Be clear, simple, and actionable. And don't forget to remind them why this step will actually help them, because it's not about you, it's about the listener. Step number 2, offer some exclusive value, right? So now let's talk about giving your audience a little taste, maybe, of what it's like or what it's going to be like to actually work with you. So you could share something actionable, whether that's a quick tip, whether that's a behind the scenes story, or even one of your clients' success stories. So at the end of the episode, you can say something along the lines of, hey, if you're curious about how this could work for you, let's chat. You can book a free 50-minute strategy call at whatever your website is, .com/call, or in my case, it's /appointment. And I'd love to help you figure out what your next steps will be. So that's the first 2 tips. The key here is to position your offer as a natural extension of what you have just talked about, right? It's not a hard sell. You're not trying to sell anything on your podcast, but every podcast episode is an opportunity to really sell without selling. It's an invitation. Now, step number 3 is, build a funnel around your podcast. So think of your podcast as part of a bigger ecosystem. Every episode should guide your listeners deeper into your world. Maybe they visit your website to grab this free resource, whatever that is, whether it's to join your email list, because once they're there, you can nurture them over time. It's all about building relationships. So, for example, you could say something along the lines of, do you guys want to stay connected? Join my email community for weekly tips and exclusive content at whatever your website is, .com/join, for example, right? You'll be the first to hear about new episodes, plus you'll get bonus tips that I don't share anywhere else. So there it is. It's all about creating multiple touch points, really. Multiple touch points so that your audience feel like they're almost part of your journey. So whatever it is you're doing, whatever it is you're selling at the end of your podcast, look, you can turn your listeners into clients. It doesn't have to be that complicated, but so many people, want to share, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with me on Facebook. You just have no idea if they're actually going to do that. So bringing them in to do something specific so that you can continue to nurture that relationship. Be clear, offer value, and guide them to take that next logical step for them. So why not try one of these tips in your next episode and see how it feels? You might be surprised by the results. And hey, if you try it, let me know how it goes. I'd love to hear from you. So until next time, happy podcasting. And for those of you who have been thinking, maybe you've been sitting on the fence for a while about whether to host your own podcast, then you could do the same for me, right? Why don't you book a complimentary podcast strategy call to find out how having your own podcast can help grow your business? And you can do that really easily. Just go to podcastprofitsunleashed.com/appointment. There you go. And I can share with you how the fact that you're not just creating content, right? That's part of what you're doing. You get to create content and build relationships. So until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to today's episode on the Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast. If you're a coach, consultant, therapist, or healer who would like to drive sales whilst having fun podcasting, head over to podcastprofitsunleashed.com/free and find out how you can turn your podcast into a sales machine. We'll see you on the next episode.